But some of the stories I wanted to talk about in my first monologue, had I been able to do it, particularly, I would have started with the NHS, because the NHS official website has put a blog out which is entitled "Dear White People in the UK." Now, this has to be read to be believed, because it starts badly and it goes downhill from there. It basically begins by suggesting that people read two texts. It suggests that they read an essay by Peggy McIntosh called "Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack." This is an essay from 1988. This is an old American feminist essay, which is all about white privilege. This is actually the essay that popularized the concept of white privilege. So Peggy McIntosh has a lot to be responsible for there. And it's such a shoddy, insubstantial essay. It's anyone can read it because it's online. It's very short. It's not resourced. It's all anecdotal. And yet it has sparked this entire concept of white privilege, which has proven to be incredibly unhelpful and divisive. So there's that. The other thing that this blog suggests that you read is a book by Robin DiAngelo called White Fragility, which is one of these, well, let's put it, it's the most popularized form of critical race theory. It derives a great deal from critical race theory. In other words, Robin DiAngelo believes that every possible human interaction and scenario is underpinned by racism, and that all white people are complicit in white supremacy. Robin DiAngelo, by the way, is white. So she's sort of, and this concept she's come up with, white fragility, is an incredible idea, because what she's effectively saying is that if you accuse white people of being racist and they don't like it, they are displaying white fragility, and that proves her theory that all white people are racist. So in other words, you absolutely can't win. It's sort of the equivalent of a medieval witch dunking trial. You know, there's absolutely no way that you can get out of that, because any form of criticism of her is taken as proof of her thesis. So this NHS blog says you need to. It gives suggestions like don't be defensive. So that's taken straight from Robin DiAngelo. It says work on your empathy. Okay. It also says be uncomfortable. So now the NHS on its official site is urging white people to be uncomfortable, which seems to go against its charter. And, you know, obviously this sort of stuff is incredibly racially divisive, and it's ideological nonsense, and it's dangerous nonsense. And, you know, and this is coming, by the way, this blog, I should say, is authored by the head of inclusion at the Nursing and Midwifery Council.
This is it.
Yeah,
this
so if you're a...
This is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, if you are a new parent, and you're dealing with the NHS and you're dealing with a midwife, and your midwife hands you your baby and says that your baby needs to atone for its white privilege, this will be why. It'll be because of this, right? I don't know what you make of this, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I read the blog and I thought it sounded quite draconian. You've hit a lot of the key points there, but I did wonder what a lot of these people who were on quite a good whack, by the way, that are these diversity chiefs across the NHS. By the way, they're advertising for more of these jobs. Some of them are up to about 70 grand a year. I do just wonder, actually, whether or not this is going to do more to divide us than it is to unite us, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's the problem with the idea of critical race theory, although a lot of it is well-intentioned, and a lot of the people I've spoken to believe in it, they do so quite genuinely, and they believe that this will help us to dismantle the racial bias that still exists within society, that nobody denies still exists. We all know that racism is a thing and that we have to combat it wherever it occurs. Critical race theory is arguably the worst possible way to do that, and we've seen that. I don't think anyone seriously over the last few years could say that the implementation of critical race theory in various schools, certainly in universities and corporations, has actually improved the situation. It's quite clear that when critical race theory is implemented, it makes society more racist, not less. It's a real problem. And we've seen it in this country as well, not to the extent of America, but we're getting there. Because, for instance, Brighton Council has recently been pushing in an anti-racist school strategy, which they admit comes straight from critical race theory. The American school in London, you might have read this a couple of weeks ago, they were caught segregating children by race for after-school activities. So this stuff, the logical endpoint of this stuff is segregation. This is not going to, you know, it sets back all of the cause of racial harmony by decades, really.
No, it absolutely does. And I think people feel like unless they go along with it, then they in themselves will be labelled racist. And in fact, that's kind of what they're actually saying. That's kind of what people are being told. Just moving on now, Andrew, what else have you got for us this evening?
Well, I wanted to talk about this story, which I'm a bit wary of confirming too many details because it's at the moment going around Twitter, and we know how reliable that is. However, what I will say is one of the tweets came from the Lord Mayor of Dublin, who's tweeted out about pledge packs, LGBTQIA plus pledge packs, which are being sent out to secondary schools tomorrow. We don't know yet whether this is just schools in Dublin or throughout Ireland. People are claiming it's throughout Ireland. That you're seeing on screen at the moment is an example of one of the pages from the pledge pack. We pledge to normalise and respect the display of all pronouns. Well, I mean, there are hundreds of pronouns, and I've spoken about this before on this very show. Is that a lot of this stuff, again, it comes down to the fact that people think it's a good idea. People don't understand what's happening here. What is happening here is gender identity ideology is being propagated throughout schools, and people will accept it and even help in that propagation because they think what's going on is we're just standing up for equal rights for trans and gay people, which everyone supports, right? So why would you be against that? But that's not what this is. Gender identity ideology is not the same as equal rights for gay and trans people. It's about this very specific quasi-religious belief that we all have a kind of sexed soul within us that doesn't match our body, doesn't match our anatomy, and that therefore we can just identify and switch between multiple genders, hundreds of genders, if you like, according to a whim. And it's not the same as gender dysphoria. It's not the same as people who have this genuine feeling that they are uncomfortable within their own body and they need to present as the opposite sex, or they need to undertake medical treatment in order to achieve that. And everyone has sympathy with those people, and everyone believes they should have exactly the same rights as everyone else in society. That is not what's going on here. But because it's couched in those terms, it gets spread. And I rather fear that a lot of the teachers and headmasters and headmistresses who are going to be pushing this tomorrow, if it is indeed tomorrow that the packs are going out, will be good people who think it's a good thing and don't really understand the implications.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I've made the point before that if I am ever unfortunate enough to have children one day and I send them to school, I'd quite like them to learn a bit of maths, some English, maybe a smattering of French, and, I don't know, have a pop at art, right? I don't really like the idea that potentially Sandra from the geography department might reassign my child's gender without telling me, and that kind of seems to be where we are.
Yeah, I say this with love, Patrick, but please don't reproduce. I don't mean, no, I don't. That sounds mean. That sounds mean. But it's something that's been on my mind. I thought I'd get out in the open. But look, the thing is, what's great is on the show you're going to be talking to Debbie Hayton about this, who is a teacher, writer, and activist, and that's coming up. So she'll be able to fill in some more details about this situation.
100%, absolutely. I think we've got time for you to fill us in about something else that we've got coming up, Andrew.
Well, this is just Mark Bowler, the footballer, charged by the Football Association. Now, I know nothing about football. I literally know nothing about it at all. I have no interest in it whatsoever. But I am interested in this story because this is a footballer who has been charged by the FA because of a tweet that he sent when he was 14 years old. The tweet was judged to be insulting, abusive, and they've added it's an aggravated breach because it referred to sexual orientation. I don't know what the tweet was. I assume he's making a kind of a gay slur or something, He was in year 9. I mean, if you remember what you were like in year 9, like...
Very similar.
I just think... Well, they're quite, And I just sort of think, why are we holding people to account for things they said when they were kids? What has that got to do with anything? And just more broadly, I think this isn't just about the FA. This trend of going through people's tweets and social media history, and just trawling for any kind of evidence of impurity, it really does suggest... Because all of this is connected to what we call the woke ideology, but which is better described as the critical social justice ideology. Part of it is detecting the sinner, finding the witch, uncovering them, and then metaphorically burning them at the stake. And that's what's happening here. It's a kind of public shaming for this footballer. But look, I'm not going to keep you too long because I'm sure the panelists have a lot of thoughts about those stories. But and thanks again, Patrick. I do appreciate this.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.